It is another Corporate Time with Tom and Dan. I'm Dan.
I'm Tom. Kenny Samsel's here.
Hey,
Kenny.
I'm great. How are you guys? You guys all raspy from the cruise?
Yeah, a little raspy.
Yeah.
I hate the raspiness. It always feels like it's like the equivalent of feeling like you're running. You know that move where your wife is telling you to do something at the beach and you're in waist-deep water and you have to move quickly, but you can't because your legs are too weak?
That's
what I feel like right now. That's what I feel like right now.
What an oddly specific example.
Yeah. All my examples are oddly specific. That's the way I do it.
Before we start,
Yeah.
I have a question to ask you guys to determine whether I'm in the wrong or not.
Yeah.
Or if I should apologize more.
There's a group on Reddit called Am I the A-Hole that you should join.
Oh, yeah.
Because all you do is answer questions all day. And I go in there and I'm like, yes, you are. Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Every once in a while, it's, no, you're actually being quite reasonable. It's the other person. Very rarely, though.
All right.
I've never seen it in the group.
So, a while back, let's say 2 weeks ago or so, some friends of mine came up from Miami, and our plan was to go see bioluminescence out in the coast because we did it the year prior, and it was awesome. The kids loved it, and we kept promoting it to all our friends. Like, you got to come next year. This is awesome.
That's your problem right there, is promoting things to your friends.
And so,
I'm done doing that. Restaurants, foods, anything, nothing.
And so they were like, all right, we're going to plan a trip. They planned a trip to come up. Crystal planned it out for like the darkest, night of the year, which was...
I thought you were going to say the darkest to berry. The sweeter the juice.
Which was Labor Day weekend or whatever. So then we needed kayaks or other like kayak adjacent flotation devices to see this garbage.
We need some of those boats that everyone hates.
Yeah.
The
What are they
banana
called?
boats?
Yeah, what are those little boats that everyone hates? They buy them and they never use them.
So
Oh, I thought it was one of the ones where everyone has to straddle. Like, you don't sit in it, just everyone straddles on the side of
the
it.
banana. Yeah, those are great.
So, no, we need something like to paddle out into this hot-ass doo-doo water to look at these organisms.
Then you slap your hands in it for 2 minutes, and you're like, all right.
So, I remembered, I know who's got a kayak because he keeps trying to sell it to me, is EJ.
Yes, he does.
Um,
but it's all old, right? It's like 1986.
No, I don't know. Well, I text him. I'm like, hey, do you still got that kayak? And then he texts me a picture of the kayak hanging in his garage. And he's like, yes, I do.
Yeah, it's been here for 25 years, hanging on this wall.
Yeah, set up much like a sitcom garage, how everything is like perfectly placed.
It's called the Seinfeld apartment.
Yeah,
where you got the bike in the back, and you're like, he never rides it.
And so when I'm not like afraid to ask someone to borrow something. I don't
we
know if you know that.
We know. Because like it's weird that I don't understand why you do that. Because you borrow things all the time and never return them. So if this is one of those stories,
I return them.
If this is I'm talking to Kenny now.
Yeah.
If this is a story where he borrowed something and then he didn't return it, and then the question is, am I the a-hole? The answer is yes.
No, well, that's not the
of course.
story.
Okay, all right.
Don't jump to conclusions.
Okay, all right. That's fair.
Don't
That's
judge me based on every other action in my history.
Don't use the
People
evidence.
change.
Yeah, people change.
And also, I do the math where I'm like, this guy hasn't used his kayak in years. He's been wanting to sell it for a long time. He's not using it.
Unfortunately, it's not about that, but I get what you're saying.
No,
I get what you're saying.
Well, that's why I don't borrow things from Daniel, because he cares about things.
Well, I would just be
things,
like, no, I care about like just being a good human. And when I borrow things from people, even if I'm not using it, and even if the other person isn't using it, if it's not mine, I try to get it back to them quickly, because that's just how you're supposed to do human. That's called normal. These are normal interactions that humans do.
That's why I never let Tom know what I have, so he can never borrow anything.
Yeah, don't show him your garage. He'll go through it. He's picking through it like a security guard with that little wooden wand. He's digging through all your crap trying to borrow stuff.
I would have returned it. It's all because I borrowed the Sawzall that I still have from Daniel.
I forgot about that.
I'm going to bring it back.
That was a blanket statement. I was not channeling the Sawzall.
It's stuck in your head.
No, I don't even need
it.
I don't even need it. In fact, I gave you a second saw. There's another saw in there that's mine that you just tried to steal, and I was like, you can have it. And you're like, I was going to take it anyway.
As a listener, it's also the smoke machine that you didn't return directly. You returned it via a third party.
No, I have it now. I've stolen that.
Oh, okay.
Well,
that's why I got to
return
tread lightly on this one.
He's the same as I am.
I'm not. I'm like 3 3 degrees lower, but we'll continue.
So anyway, I asked EJ, can I borrow this kayak? And he's like, yeah, you can borrow it. And so I'm like,
Were
all
there
right,
any
cool.
stipulations? Did he say,
No.
but...
No.
All right. I need that for me.
I imagine he was glad to give it to me because he may think that this will somehow turn into some show content, and I'll talk about him and
he's
gets
an
happy about
egomaniac.
that.
Yeah. Egomania never dies.
And so I'm like, all right, cool. I'll let you know. You know, I still don't know all the plans, but I'll let you know when I'm going to come pick it up, right?
Right.
So then as the days get closer to the weekend we're supposed to go, Crystal's looking on Facebook and seeing that some people are like claiming.
Did you see about P. Diddy and the freak-offs? She's looking. She's like, I want to go to a freak-off.
She's seeing that people are like, oh, because of all the rain, the bioluminescence isn't that bright, and it's not some places because it's cooling off the water too much. It's too rainy.
Met somebody on the cruise that went, was amazing.
And yeah, I guess it's in different places. Like it's not always in one. There's the one place we're gonna go, so it's kind of hit or miss.
Is it one of those locations you have to like? Oh, in order to do it, you got to take your hand, you got to swish the water really fast.
No, it was more of like we don't know if it's even gonna be there if we do go, right? And that's a lot
it's
of
a dice roll.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, we're going to have to borrow these kayaks. And we put in a tremendous amount of work to do this. So basically, as it got closer, then my Miami friends, they were like, I don't know if we want to, like, you know, get all the kids out there for nothing. You know, you know, what if we just get mosquitoes?
I will say it is, like, it's literally when you watch it, it's absolutely breathtaking. Like when you take in the bioluminescence, like when I saw it, I visibly had tears coming. I fell to my knees. I was pounding on the ground.
You never saw it.
No, I've never seen it. I don't care about it, and it's just stupid. Yeah.
And so anyway, we already saw it last year, but we wanted to show it for it. So anyway, long story short, we decided to cancel the trip, but I didn't know this until last minute. So then EJ was on Friday, the day before we were gonna go. He was like, "Hey, I get off of work at this time." I'm like, "All right, no problem." I'm like, "I still don't know," and he's like, "Well, I went ahead and I took the kayak out of my garage and I put it on the side of my house for you."
Okay, hold on. You didn't ask for that.
So then you could.
No, this is Andrea over helping.
Yeah,
you didn't ask for that.
Yeah.
You didn't ask for that. Now, hold on. I am a fair freaking judge. I'm a fair judge.
Yeah. So I never asked him, "Hey, can you put it outside?"
You
know, and then
that's a step too far.
So then he takes a picture of it, like on the side of his house. Like it looked like he had to pull it out. He's got a junk garage like I do. I saw the pictures.
Kindred spirits.
And so he had to pull. We're just like each other. That's why we don't like each other.
That's true. I didn't want to say that part, but I'm glad you did.
And then so he did all this effort. Then he put it on the side of his house. He's like, "I did this so in case I get home late, I know you finished the show, so that way you don't have to wait until I'm home. You can pick it up whenever you want or whatever." And then so then later on,
now I'm laughing.
and then he tells me, "You better pick it up because it's a pain in the ass to take it." And I was like, "Wait a minute!
Well, now
I didn't ask you to do this.
You did not.
And so then
very imposing.
It turns Friday night, and we find out like, oh, my friends are lazy. They don't want to go. And then
you were
Crystal's
mad,
like,
right? You
so
were mad.
Yeah. So I'm like, all right, fine. So then I text EJ. I'm like, I'm sorry, dude. I'm not gonna come get it. We don't need it. We're not gonna go.
Yeah.
And then I got no text back. And then
is he mad at you?
I just assume he's mad at me.
That's his fault. That's his fault.
Okay, so if you go extra,
I thought you were gonna you took it, you left it, you got stolen or something like that.
Come on,
but no, the fact that he did something that was not asked, like you did not ask for that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't do that. Like there's been plenty of times that you'll ask, "Hey, can I have that?" I'll just wait until you really need it and then do it.
Yeah.
Right?
So I equated it to this. Like, what if someone tells me hey, I'm gonna swing by your house and stay over on my way on a road trip, like some friends from Miami. Right?
How benevolent and kind of you to stay at my house. Is that what? Like, I didn't understand the analogy here.
No,
I sadly get where Tom's going.
And then I'm like, oh, okay, cool, no problem. When are you gonna come? Thursday night, okay. And then I like, my house is not clean all the time. I only clean when people come over.
Like beer.
I have to show them the way I want to live, not the way I actually live. So, and then I like change the kids' sheets in one room so they can stay in the room. I clean up, whatever. Then I get a text, and then they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry, never mind. Plans changed. We're not gonna stay." So I feel like, well,
actually,
I did a bunch of work. They didn't ask me to, but I did it because I assumed they were staying, and I was trying to be overly,
I don't think that's a fair comparison. I think that because you would have had to do that anyway. you could have gone over to EJ because knowing how cumbersome it is, you could have helped him bring the kayak out of the garage. So there's a part of it where
That's
there's
what I
a little bit of
expected
effort.
to do.
I think in your analogy, your thing would be like, oh, you're coming over Thursday, you buy so many groceries, you're going to prepare this grand feast so that way they can have dinner with you. Well, they didn't ask that. They just needed to crash at your place. That's the extra that I think that he did.
Okay.
He did extra. Excellent. Kenny nailed it. Like, you're really good at this. It's it was extra because normal people, you would have driven over there. He raises the garage. You go in and help him.
You would have helped him with it.
You help him carry it. You put it in there and then you return it. This, he was like, oh, he's coming to get it. I'll do him a favor, and you can't be mad at the person you're doing a favor for, EJ. You can't say, I'm going to take this kayak down because Kenny needs it and put it on the side of the house to make it easy for him, and then when he doesn't pick it up...
and then he's all mad. He's like, I did all this work, then I'm not asking you to
Then
do
you
that.
were doing the favor
right.
incorrectly. The origin of why you were doing that was wrong to begin with.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
Especially because you did give him a little bit of an out saying, hey, I don't know. There might be a chance that it's canceled.
Yeah.
So he took the too much initiative.
All right.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
so,
normally, and this is odd because normally he takes 0 initiative. So isn't it odd that the guy who literally, when he needed a wheel for his own Pokemon tournament, he drew it on a piece of paper. This one, he went the extra mile. You know why? Because he knew you weren't going to pick it up, and he knew it was a setup. He did it because he knew you weren't. In fact, is it there? Was the picture doctored? Was it a real picture? Or did he just say he put it on the side of the house?
Well,
did he send you a picture of it? Because I don't think he did it. I think he
No,
did.
he sent me a picture of it on the side of his house.
All right. I was going to take it further because I think the whole thing was a setup.
You know what?
He knew you weren't coming to get it.
It would be like if someone just decided to come over and drop off a toddler-sized Mortal Kombat machine. And it's like cumbersome. It's like, well, we didn't ask for you to do this. Now we're stuck with this issue.
It's almost like Kenny wants the Nerd Jock segment now. It's almost like you want that
Well, I
segment.
do know more about sports than he does.
Well, I mean, we could run it.
I just realized EJ's the king of wasted initiative because it's like him putting on his pads every UM game. There was no chance of him actually using them, but he still put them on, and he's standing there.
You're the suit-up doofus.
Not to give you more work, Dan, but when he said king of wasted initiative, I immediately thought of king of wishful thinking. Yeah, doing a parody.
Initiative.
How you doing, Kenny?
Good to see you, buddy. Hey, welcome. Hold on, let me give you a blast. There you go.
Hey-oh, that means something else if we weren't on the air.
Yeah.
So this is a lot sooner than I know. I'm normally a once-a-month type of guy, and you had me come in, in a couple weeks.
I was like, you know what? This Kenny guy's good. Let's get him in here every 2 weeks now.
Yeah. And we got Cadillac Pat on a little bit more of an amped-up level. The idea is to try and push EJ out. That's the idea. If we change, this is what you do. If we were any other fast food restaurant, when you have that one worker you hate, you just start scheduling the people you like until the person that you hate doesn't have a job anymore.
Yeah.
Or is it more like the Office Space where it's like, well, we just stopped paying him and we'll eventually let him figure it out.
It's hard to stop something we never started.
That's true. It's like trying to start and stop time. It's a weird construct.
So when I was here a couple weeks ago, I know a lot of people liked the failed corporate initiatives talking about this.
Yes.
I have another one. You guys know Hoover, the vacuum cleaner company.
Okay.
Your mama.
What?
That used to be like a joke. I've been trying to teach Maisie a lot of old phrases. Last night, Andrea taught Maisie what to run a train means.
Oh.
Yeah. Ask Andrea about that. Who's king parent now? Me, baby. Me. Because I don't say run a train. I didn't say the Eagles are going to run a train on the Atlanta Falcons in front of my daughter.
So what you say it meant?
Wait, what?
She didn't.
Oh.
She didn't.
She said the phrase, Maisie's now curious.
Maisie was sitting, we were all talking about Atlanta, and I said Atlanta's going to get beat. And then Andrea's like, the Eagles are going to run a train on Atlanta. That's what she said in front of my daughter.
Do not teach Maisie UrbanDictionary.com.
I'm not going to teach you.
Do not teach it. Well, so the Hoover Vacuum Company was actually quite popular in the UK, so much so where Hoover actually became like another word for vacuum cleaner, kind of like how we say Kleenex or Vaseline or something like that.
Yeah.
Where if you were talking about a vacuum cleaner, they would just say Hoover. Do you have a Hoover? Where's the Hoover? All that. Well, in the 90s, they started losing market share because Dyson was up and coming and, Dirt Devil and Black & Decker, all these other companies.
What was the big one that was so expensive? Kirby.
Kirby.
Kirby,
Because they were also in every hotel.
My
too.
mom had a Kirby. Well, you're thinking Oric.
Oh, that is Oric.
Yeah, you're
the really
thinking
light
that.
one.
I know a lot about vacuum cleaners. You're thinking about the 8-pound Oric.
Yeah.
They had those on the cruise ship.
An old man can lift it up with one finger.
Yeah. I always wanted the 8-pound Oric. I told Andrea we should get an
right.
8-pound Oric. She's like, you're an old man. I'm going to run a train on you.
So Hoover, as a way to try to, garner up business in the early 90s, decided to do a fly for free promotion to where if you buy $100 worth of Hoover products, now they had other small appliances and stuff as well, you can get round trip tickets to anywhere in Europe. And at the time, if you spend $100-some, the average cost of, and I say dollars, it's pounds, the average cost of a round trip flight from the UK to, like Spain or France or whatever was about £100. So, for them, it was like, hey, we know people are probably going to spend more, and that's going to be a good little trade. They also made it really cumbersome for people to get these vouchers because, again, this was early 90s, no internet. So it's one of those you had to ask for an application if the store didn't have one. So you had to send off for an application. Then within 14 days, submit your receipt with the application.
Oh, wait, is this the impossible task?
Well, they almost made it an impossible
I love
task.
an impossible task.
Yeah.
And then when they...
This used to be the thing. Like, I would fall for these all the time because I'm a sucker for packaging. Like, I would see, like, a seminar, and it would be, like, a free laptop computer. This is before computers were, like, a big deal.
Yeah.
And I'd beg my parents. I was like, we have to go. It's a free laptop.
Yeah.
Because I would, like, and then you'd have to go to the seminar. You have to fill out the form. You have to wait 4 hours. You have to do all the stuff.
I've never filled out a mail-in rebate before
Yeah.
in my entire life. When they're like, "Oh, $50 off if you mail in this rebate," I'm like, I'm just gonna ignore you said that because there's no chance in hell I'm ever gonna.
And
do
they're
this.
obviously banking on it. So when you did get the voucher, you only had 30 days in order to select your departure airport, your arrival city, the dates, and all that stuff. So they did make it difficult. Now, it was worth it for a lot of people just to get $100 worth of Hoover products to do it, and so much so to where sales went through the roof. Like, it was
Okay, the
gangbusters.
promotion worked.
And
well.
promotion
also,
worked.
you got to think about this. You're at a time, and I was just talking about this with Andrea, where right now your vacuum cleaner is almost a zero. It needs zero money once you've bought it. But there was a time when I remember having bags in the vacuum cleaner. I remember my mom and dad not being able to vacuum because we didn't have a vacuum bag. I remember getting in my dad's LeSabre and driving up
having to
the
drive to the
street
store.
to like the Hoover store and going in with him, and he'd have to look at the wall of bags, and he'd have to pull the right one, and sometimes he'd get the wrong
Yep.
one.
And
It's
there
like,
were vacuum cleaner repair shops.
oh, yeah.
yeah.
Still
that-
are, but there's like maybe two.
Yeah.
And with a big name like Hoover, sometimes they would have to send a maintenance person to your house in order to fix it. You know what I mean? Because
Wow.
you're dealing with a lot of people who don't know what they're doing. So Hoover was like, we got a lot of money. How do we double down on this? How do we make more money? Much like how Pepsi decided to run the promotion and
Yeah.
killing
I
people.
love that.
So Hoover was like, we have an idea. Let's do an international flight to the U.S. as the promotion. But they didn't change the fact that it was only 100 pounds that you needed to buy. And an international flight was like 600 pounds. So they were thinking, well, with the amount of impossible tasks that we put, we're going to make more money. People are going to be more, apt to buy it because they think they can go to the U.S. Well, it backfired on them because now that it was a flight to the U.S., so many more people decided to cash in and go through the laborious process of doing the vouchers.
Yeah, because it's worth it at that point.
Exactly.
Now you're getting like $500 in value, possibly.
Exactly.
And so for $500, like I may, if someone said, "Hey, there's a $500 rebate," like now I'm sitting down and filling it out.
Especially
You know what I mean?
if you only spent $100.
Yeah,
you know what
yeah,
I mean?
yeah,
Yeah, true.
So Hoover was like, "Uh-oh, what do we do here?" So they tried to make
How
it.
do they not think about this, by the way? Like, it seems
Because
like so egregious.
It's your number one question, right?
Do-
The fall through the crack or the detail?
Because
Like,
I
what
think
if
they
peop-
see, X percentage of people bought but didn't submit the rebate. We only think a little bit less are going to do that for the international flight to the U.S. instead.
Yeah, but no one stood up in the marketing meeting and like, "Hey, like I'm poor. Like I understand the CEO and Mr. Hoover's rich, but like I think I'd fill out the voucher for $500
Well,
in value."
you wouldn't be in those meetings. The meetings are all done by the rich.
Do they roll? Is it just they're rolling too quickly? Because it is a fall through. It's always a fall through the cracks sort of a thing, right?
Yeah,
Or
it's
they didn't add a zero, or it's always like
They see that they've made money off
it's
the
excitement.
so
It's blinded with excitement.
the initial idea had so much planning that it worked, and they rushed the second idea, and that's what happens is
Gotcha.
they're rushing it. So Hoover decided, hey, we got to figure out how to do it. So they started making it to where it's like, oh, okay, well, if you want to fly, like, let's, I'm using Florida as an example because I don't know too many cities in England, but like we live in Orlando and they're like, oh, okay, well, you got to fly out of Jacksonville in order to take your trip. Oh, and you also have to fly at 5 a.m. and your flight's going to be on a Tuesday. You know what I mean?
They started making it hard.
They try to make it as inconvenient as possible.
But to some people, like Andrea's mom, they don't care. And they're going to be there, and they're going to get that free flight.
Yep.
And sorry, it doesn't matter what you did.
They'll do whatever it takes.
There's nothing that can inconvenience them because they are they're in for the game. They won the game. They're going to win the game. They will win the sweepstakes. There is no other way.
They started doing that. Still wasn't enough. So then they started getting really petty with it, and they're like, oh, you didn't initial this one thing in the right place, so we're going to negate this. This doesn't count. You don't get the flight voucher.
I do like that,
so they started doing little
I do
things
like
that.
that, though. I've always liked that.
So much so to where a bunch of people started getting together, doing these coalitions, and, whatever. They would take them to small claims court, knowing they would lose because obviously Hoover has all the money to do, have the best lawyers. But they knew if they filed so many small claims, it would just occupy their time and waste Hoover's time.
Okay.
So it was more so like
revenge.
And
how
if
do we
there's
get
one
back
thing
at it?
I know, never waste Hoover's time.
Well, and then got to a point where a lot of people were like, hey, again, they're all in the UK, and they're like, hey, people in the US.
Is Hoover a UK brand?
No, they're technically based in the US because they would buy stock in Hoover. To a point where when they had a shareholders meeting, all these British people would fly to the U.S., ironically, fly to the U.S. and spend the entire shareholders meeting complaining about this promotion and just completely nothing, whatever. Because as legal shareholders of Hoover, they were able to attend the meeting and then
That's why you never let
completely waste the
shareholders,
time.
you never let them air their grievances. That's one of the rules we have here with our founders, with any listeners or anything.
No
Look,
grievances.
Yeah, you have no voice.
And it was,
None.
It was the irony that they're spending their own money to fly to the U.S. to complain about not getting a free flight to the U.S.
Yeah.
And they spent a lot of time doing that. It got so crazy. Now, unfortunately, I say fortunately, no one died in this, unlike the Pepsi promotion. But there was one where a Hoover technician went over to this guy's house, and the guy started complaining about, hey, I never got my voucher. And then the technician was like, well, you're an idiot for thinking that Hoover would honor that. And that set this guy off. So this guy then took his truck, blocked the Hoover guy in his driveway, locked all the doors, and kept the Hoover technician hostage.
I like that. I thought you were going to go a little more sinister. I thought
So
he
he kept a hostage.
burn the house down or something.
And the technician called their equivalent of 911, and the police were like, we're not going to get involved with this. And so they didn't show up.
Why? You did what?
So
You're right. You're right.
It started getting media coverage, and the media was like,
That's British police for you. Our police will get involved.
but then
They'll pull you out of the car.
other companies, other people were like pro.
Hey, why are you knocking on my Hoover?
But they're like pro this guy. They were like, yeah, keep him hostage. Like people were cheering him on and be like, yeah, let's do it. And Hoover was like, come on, man. Like we'll give you the flight. Like here, we'll give you the money right now. And the guy's like, nah. You guys pissed me off
how far the British go for things. I do like a good kidnapping. Or remember the guy that faked his death and then at his funeral he landed a helicopter and came out and proved everybody he was still alive just because he hated his family so much. The Brits they'll go a long way to do something.
Well, so obviously a lot of executives lost their job. The guy ended up letting him go after people were raising money. And again, this was the early 90s where there wasn't some online GoFundMe campaign. It was literally people pulling money together and local travel agencies loving the promotion. They're like, we'll give you the free flight thanks to, Mike's travel agency. I don't know. They would just do stuff like that.
Just try to take advantage of the publicity of it.
Exactly.
Oh, you reminded me. I have a GoFundMe out right now to get my cat a hysterectomy. If you guys would, it's on the tomanddan.com. If you would just go check it out.
Dan could pay for it, but he would rather other people pay.
Yeah. That seems to be one of the things I see on GoFundMe is this cat, it needs a hysterectomy. I don't even know how old it is. It may not even be my cat.
Oh, I got to GoFundMe to pay our own employees. I don't want to do that either. I don't really want to pay for anything. I'd rather just keep the money. Thank you.
You guys heard that Cappy's is back.
Yeah. Breaking news.
Yeah.
Breaking news. We kept the average sandwiches.
Yeah.
I'm joking.
All the
It's a
people
joke.
that ate there for the first time
We won.
can keep it the first time.
We won. Everybody that didn't go can still keep not going. We won.
Now, I did
I'm kidding.
see the tremendous amount of people that were showing up. I drive by Cappy's on my way home, and there were
that area. This guy, oh my God. There's no Cappies of Baldwin, I assure you. I assure you.
And there were tons of people out there. And then as I was driving by, I was like, oh my God, look at this packed.
You're like, this is a muddy. Look at a muddy.
And then the first thing I thought, I was like, we should say we're going out of business. That's what I honestly thought. I was like, how can we say we're getting thrown out of our business
in DeLand, Florida,
and come support us?
I'm going back for my 30th year high school reunion this Friday. In DeLand, Florida, there used to be the clothing store that me and my dad used to make fun of. Gibbs for Men. It was Gus Gibbs. He owned this menswear clothing company. Like a little clothing store. He would go out of business once a year, and me and my dad would howl. We'd drive by, we'd be like, I'm going out of business. There he goes. and then he'd be like, the next year, boom, back at it. Here we go. Let's go.
And I'm not saying they did that. I mean, obviously, it seems like they had an issue that probably got resolved.
It sounds like, they got a new lease. It sounds like the owner's going to help them with improvements.
They got this influx of money, but then the story is, they worked out a new lease. Well, I'm like, that doesn't necessarily mean they all of a sudden afford. You know what I mean?
Why are you such a Cappies hater, dude?
Well, then it wasn't they couldn't afford the lease. The new owner of the property wasn't interested in having them be there.
Yeah,
so they were
like, we will have no more subs. Good day.
I don't even know if they wanted to price them out with the lease payment, or if it was just like, hey, we're gonna sell this to some commercial property because this is like Winter Park is moving up 1792, and so all I remember when Bubbaloo's got sold and all that is Ravadosh. Ravadosh is taking over.
Ravadosh tried to be fancy, right? But I think even Ravadosh is gonna get eaten.
No, their new construction and there's some car dealerships and real assholes.
So let me ask you something.
Then I'm like, those things are gonna get sold.
We're all just friends here. Let me ask you something, because the chat room brought up the exact thing I was thinking. Is there a possibility that they reopen? I think they reopen September 23rd. Is there a possibility they reopen and then people honestly don't care and it's in the same
in 1 year when their lease is up, let's say, it's going to be the exact same position.
You think so?
I think so. I mean, there'll be the initial flux, you know what I mean, and then people will forget about it because there's 7 million other options. It sucks because obviously there's a whole bunch of restaurants that have been closing, like Pom Poms in the Milk District closed. Hawkers filed for bankruptcy protection. It's all over the place. But
when are we making our announcement?
I think. Oops. Especially restaurants, I believe if once you get higher than let's say a mom and pop style deal, where you get to where your restaurant maybe has multiple owners and locations or whatever, I think they plan for all right, this concept only has X amount of years, and then we're gonna flip the concept.
Yeah.
And they do it with clubs in South Beach and whatever. They know this thing has a 3 to 5 year shelf life, and then we're flipping it. And we already have
white chandeliers and penguins are out. Flip it. We're back into now we're into all multicolors and pink couches.
Well, didn't you bring it up where it's all right, let's say you have this restaurant that you've been have for 50 years, you're retiring. And then you just decide to close it instead of selling and getting the money. Who cares your legacy about the name of it? You're done. You're done in the restaurant business. Sell it. Sell the business. Get the money. Then you get a lot of people that are just nah, I'm just going to close it. I'm like, you dumb old man.
Maybe that's emotional. Maybe they don't want somebody
You're going to be dead soon.
But again, maybe you don't want somebody to ruin your legacy.
Give your kids the money.
I get it, but maybe you don't want to. Maybe your kids are terrible kids.
Yeah,
no. I've learned a lot through working with Daniel for 20 years. And if I know something about Daniel, money and emotion. He weighs emotion. He'll die on the hill rather than take the money.
There are times,
Be like, screw it.
I do want to know what it's like to walk away from money. I do. So I did it with the radio station. I literally kissed my entire salary, the biggest amount of money I ever made in radio. I was like, goodbye, and I pushed it into the water.
But it's like the story you tell your dad in the blinds. Someone wanted to offer him less than he wanted for the grandfather. It was at the crazy grandfather.
No, but he wasn't blood. I just literally hung out with him enough to get his anger. Yeah, he wasn't blood.
Yeah.
Well, going back to the Hoover promotion, so obviously whatever goodwill that they had just completely tanked and just completely killed their market share. They're still in existence, obviously, but they completely botched it. It does remind me, and I know it was kind of a subplot in that movie Punch Drunk Love about the healthy choice miles thing. That one wasn't so much of a loss. The guy just found a way to do it. And for those who don't know, they ran a promotion again in the 90s or the early 2000s where for every healthy choice UPC code, submit that in and American Airlines will give you X amount of miles. And then they had coupons were like double miles, if you use this coupon. Well, the guy found out that if you buy pudding, each individual UPC code is on the pudding cup as opposed to just the packaging. So one product purchase technically gets you like 4 times the amount of UPC codes.
Do you like pudding?
And he exploited that.
Do you like pudding, Kenny?
I know. I listened to you in the Drew Garabo days.
I'm
know
just asking if you
like
pudding.
I know where this is going.
I'm just asking a friend of mine.
I know where this is going. I also...
You don't know where this is going. Homo says what?
Went different.
Yes, he didn't know. You didn't know what I was doing. I'm all over the place today. I'm crazy. I'm unpredictable.
Well, I just love the fact that he took advantage of it, and the guy was able to cash in just, for the investment of a couple thousand miles, could fly anywhere for free. Now, he worked out, I believe, I don't know this 100%, so EJ, don't need to fact check me because you're probably going to be wrong anyway. So he worked out a deal with the airline that he's like, hey, okay, you're going to fly anywhere you want essentially for free. So he doesn't have the physical number of miles or the actual number of miles that he cashed in, but, he kind of worked out a deal where he's like, I don't got to fly anymore.
Yep. Yeah.
There you go.
And that's kind of similar to like the other story about the Pepsi jet, them offering a fighter jet. And I watched that documentary. Is that they had a jet in the commercial?
Wasn't it a Harrier?
Yeah, it was a Harrier.
It was the one you can land, right?
Yeah. It takes off with like thrusters, and it doesn't have to take off like a traditional plane.
As a young boy, I always wanted an A-10 Warthog.
That is true. I just saw the
I always
chat.
thought that was the cool. They called it the tank killer.
I just saw the chat, and EJ could take solace that he's probably going to beat me in the guillotine league because
are you doing bad?
My team is always towards the bottom.
Who you got? You got Cooper Cup?
Good.
You got the Cooper Cup?
No, I think Cabin Boy Matt has Cooper Cup and Christian McCaffrey.
Oh, he deserves that. Matt deserves that.
This week, the King of DeLand got the axe. And
EJ
EJ was right there, 1 point above him.
I know, but I seen his roster. I think he's going to do well this season. I'm stuck on old Jared Goff as my quarterback.
Oh, Goff.
Sticky Jared Goff.
It seems like those promotions have been killed by the internet because it's too easy to spread around. And before the internet, there was it was a lot more happenstance. You'd have to read the product promotion at the grocery store or whatever, or in the newspaper, and a lot less people were participating.
Mm-hmm.
And now the internet is it can spread around too
groups.
fast. And
I think it's the groups that killed it.
Yeah, and the groups can then combine powers to before.
Like even coupon codes right now are at an all-time low because there was a sweet spot when you'd get this almost like a web browser add-on that I think one of them is called Honey. There's a bunch of them, but they would just scrape the entire internet for any code that would save you money, and then they'd throw it in at checkout, no matter if you need it or not. And then if I were a business and you were doing that, I'd be like, no, we're good. We're doing no coupon codes, just like IKEA, no sales ever again. Sorry, you exploited it.
Yeah. Well, one of my favorite ones that they actually didn't really put a stop to it once people exploited it, but the U.S. government, when they were selling commemorative $1 coins, were selling them for $1, and if you bought a certain amount, it was free shipping. So people were like, well, I'm just going to open up a credit card, buy $1,000 worth of these dollar gold coins for $1,000, get free shipping, take these dollar coins, go to the bank and pay off my credit card. So they would
earn points.
Yeah, they earn points. Or when you open up a card where it's spend $1,000, get 2 free flights anywhere, kind of thing. And people were doing that over and over for years, and they never stopped it.
We know a guy that does this as his hobby. He's been doing it for 20 years.
He still does it.
It's Jimmy's friend, Code Black.
But it's not as
it's not as
harder. It's harder now.
But that's his whole hobby was point farming, these points. and these promotions, and he'd have he told me there's Reddit pages where all these groups of people would do this, and then there was the legend of the person that would, because he also told me there's an urban legend about if you open up too many lines of credit, it hurts your credit score. But if you're constantly using 30 different credit cards, apparently it actually good for your credit score. It's having too many open lines of credit that are not being used, maybe, but it's if you the more credit cards, it's kind of
yeah, these were active accounts.
Yeah, and then there was this urban legend about these point farmers that you get to a point where you get millions of dollars or $1 million worth of credit, and then you could take or you can get to the point where your cash withdrawal limit is close to $1 million. Then so they take it out and basically take $1 million cash from all these credit cards they opened and then go to Vegas. And he this is what he told me,
all on black.
And no. and then just hide the money in Vegas. But then once all these creditors started coming after them, because it's not illegal to never pay back your credit cards, it's just it's going to hurt your credit. They come to you and they're like, hey, you owe us you took out $30,000 or whatever, and then you're like, I'm sorry, I spent it in Vegas. And then so they couldn't prove that their initial, and then so they'd have to work out some bankruptcy thing or whatever.
Some sort of payment plan.
But then they just skip town, leave the country with the cash, and then never be seen again. You know what I'm saying? And it was kind of a legal way to
By the way, that's our friend Jimmy's friend. That's Jimmy's friend.
Well, he said that was the urban legend.
Yeah, that's what this guy, that's the kind of people that Jim Colbert, that's the kind of people that Jim Colbert hangs out with. That's my favorite show. I listen to his show all the time. But that's who he hangs out with. He's a horrible person.
He literally travels for free everywhere and gets free accommodations everywhere just off those points.
So did Puff Daddy for a little while, though, until just recently. It got bad for him today. Today was bad.
Have you guys ever used Oriental Trading Company?
You can't
for the
say
really
that.
cheap?
What are you doing, man? We got guests in the lobby, and you're airing out your. You can't say that.
It's okay. I'm part Asian.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
I forgot. You guys keep forgetting.
I do keep forgetting about that.
So, they sell all the really cheap party trinkets. Basically, it's like an online party city, essentially. The guy who
Where'd you get your shirt there?
Thank you.
Hey, comedy.
Am I classy Cadillac Pat?
No. You're more like Mardi Gras Asian Cadillac.
Well, so the guy who founded Oriental Trading Company, or at least one of the major CEOs, he just made so much money that he's like, all right, I'm just going to go to Vegas and gamble. And he just developed an insane gambling addiction. But he had
so did William Hung.
But he had so much money coming in from Oriental Trading Company, he kept gambling and gambling and gambling. And it got to a point where it was actually grossly irresponsible that these casinos were giving him lines of credit, letting him, giving him free food and hotel stays so he continues to stay there. And
this person obviously has a problem.
But they were just giving him free drinks, free food, free hotel stays, and he ended up just battling severe depression and mental health issues and stuff just because he had all this money just keep flowing in from the online company.
I believe that American Idol's William Hung did as well. I think, and his wife left him. I think he got I think he's basically just a normal guy now, and gambling destroyed his life.
Yeah, if for whatever reason we don't look at gambling as sad of an addiction as opiates or alcohol or other ones where we're we feel bad for the opiates and alcohol. In the gambling, people are it's almost they're what? They're mad at the person. You gambled, you know what I'm saying? But, I think brain-wise, it's the same thing.
Yeah,
it's
the same chemical dump.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
It's like the kids that are addicted to video games and they don't do any of their school work. They don't bathe. They don't take care of themselves because they're just addicted to video games. It's destroying their own lives. It's unlike gambling where it's technically your family's money.
It is weird how we look at some of these addictions, like the video games, because those kids that are the best at Madden or any other online game and that play it professionally, Kenny, you know this. You could sit back and look at their lives and you're this guy, he may be addicted to playing these games. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but his addiction is bettering his life, right?
Yeah.
That kid's making money. He's in Vegas. He's with Pat McAfee. He was one of the Madden kids. He was kicking the field goal. And
Yeah. But to get to there, you had to be addicted to that game. And the same thing with even the bodybuilders. You could be this is probably unhealthy, but when they're winning, Mr. Olympian. then you're like, oh, well, good for him. He worked hard.
I wonder if
But
the
it's like-
definition. I wonder if the definition of addiction changes that. Like, I wonder if it's possible to be like, let's say, like Arnold at his peak.
yeah.
Like, does
You listen to his book. You're
Yeah.
addicted to working out.
Yeah, but I wonder if we've bastardized that term, right? It's like saying I'm starving when you're hungry, right? It's like saying, like it's like saying he's addicted to bodybuilding. Is he really
Yeah,
though?
addiction-
I think he could probably step away from it.
Addiction
That's
has to
the
do a
difference.
lot with compulsion and like cravings and stuff because you deal with a lot of like people who are sex addicts, and a lot of people just throw that term around when they get caught cheating. They're like, oh, there it is. Where it's like it's like, oh, I have to go to rehab for sex addiction, but it's like, well, no, you just cheated because you're a horrible person. Whereas actual sex addicts, they're like, no, they are literally going to homeless people. They're going to, prostitutes.
that's what we do.
They're doing all these things.
That's what we
their
do.
life.
I'll get it wherever I can. I'll get it from a Publix bag boy. I'll get it from
Yeah.
some old lady in a hallway. What do you need?
Or
What do
they're
you
having
got?
to like sell things in
What are
order
you
just to
offering?
like get that fix in order to do that. That's an actual sex addiction, not just because you met someone and you cheated on your significant other.
People, they use addiction
Yeah.
to make society. I mean, celebrities do this where like they make a horrible mistake and they're like, I'm going to rehab now. That'll make it better. Everybody will feel sorry for me. It's like, wait a minute, that's not why you're
No.
a bad person.
Yeah, you're just taking a break from the media.
But then it's super complicated because you could probably, like, for other bodybuilders that maybe don't win,
I'm listening.
and or like something that, or people that playing video games, their dream is to be the best at Madden, right? But
Yeah.
they're spending so much time doing it that it's hurting the rest of their lives. But they're like, oh, I'm training.
Yeah,
Well,
but they
just-
never had the talent to begin with, and that's the addiction.
Yeah,
That's the waste.
and I think it's also what is it harming? Like if you're talking about bodybuilding, I'm like, well, is their heart about to explode? You know what I mean?
We
Are
just
they
had a
like
guy die.
depriving themselves of hydration because they're trying to just purely,
What if they're
get cut?
spending their entire life, every waking moment, for this? And then you can say, well, it's in balance here.
Yeah.
But then they're like, well, this is what you have to do to, so it's a gray area of like, well, I guess of like extreme hard work and addiction, and
Also, time of life. We use the Arnold example, but he was hella young when he did that. So the ability for him to do that, like he didn't have anything else going
There's
on.
also
how many
discipline.
Arnolds didn't make?
Yeah.
Like
There's also
hundreds?
discipline involved because I think if
Probably
you're
thousands.
addicted, you're like, I'm going to forego sleep tonight in order to work out. I'm going to forego hanging out with this person in order to work out. Whereas Arnold, he's smoking, he's dancing with some Brazilian booty girls.
I think it gets complicated because there are some people that I've seen.
Probably somebody in the chat room said it probably is a spectrum of addiction.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
We've
like
seen
where
people that-
Arnold lays on there is like that's the beauty of him, right? Is that he does have that switch where he can just enough. He gets out and has a normal life, but is still to the tippy top. Same with Tiger. There are probably guys more addicted to golf than him, but he has just enough to get out.
Yeah, but then he's probably his other addictions, his sex addiction and stuff like that, his opiate addiction. Like he's probably an addict, dude. A lot of Ironmen that I've met are addicts, and like ultra runners and all these guys in endurance sports, like they're addicted to running or whatever the hell, cycling and
It's
stuff.
just the release of the chemicals that the running gives them.
Yeah.
From vacuum cleaners to addiction, that was your Tuesday ACT.
Yeah, that's what we're calling it. From vacuum cleaners to addiction.
Oh, Kenny-
Or we would have accepted Hoover up that fentanyl.
We'll be right back.
Two Moves Podcast. Find it where any podcasts are heard.
Yeah, thank you, Kenny.
And we appreciate you coming in, Kenny.
Yeah,
Thanks
love
for having
buddy.
me in.
You want to come in tomorrow?
You want to be our friend?
How often are you willing to do this? All right. We'll be right back.
Perfect. What's up, guys?
Hey.
Thank you for your patience.
Yeah, we just ran a little late.
All right, let me stack that one. Thank you, Kenny.
No, thank
That's
you,
really
guys.
good, dude. That's a
I
great
appreciate
story.
it.
I love your shoes.
Yeah, man. I
But
appreciate that.
you only wear those every once in a while, right?
I got to cycle through on my sneaks.
Yeah, and then they get busted, right? Like these are some of my favorites, and I
Definitely.
put them on this morning, hole in the bottom, and I'm like, oh my
God
god,
dang.
come on, Dan, you're better than that.
Anything other
All right, man. I'll catch you later.
I will see you online, my man.
Yeah, man. Thank you guys for hanging out and waiting. Take care, guys.
Split.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Well, yeah, we'll just hit cover.
Yeah, right. We got 5 hours.
We got about 6 hours. So, yeah, we added an extra one for tonight. All right, let me make sure.
If you guys want any waters, we got
This is
waters
here.
and some LaCroix and
Here. I'm gonna drop that guy down just a touch. Like that. We have that one there. If you need
Oh,
it.
perfect. I like
yeah,
this.
I love it. Thank you. Barney the Buffalo.
So probably right.
Short, yep, right
Okay.
there.
A really good one. Do you want to be?
Oh, Daniel, nice to meet you. Rick. Sorry, I'm in my cave, and
in the middle?
good to see you again, my lady. Kabam. Dude, what's up? Great to see you guys.
Because that.
I never leave my tiny hole. Did you get new glasses? Those are nice.
I just usually don't.
I like those. Those are great.
Yeah.
With little flecks of blue in them.
Oh, they are new. Yeah, they are.
Those are great. Well, I'm in the market, so now I'm like looking at everybody's eyewear, and I'm like, would that fit my fat face? I don't think it would. I got to get a different style. All right, let me get your camera going here. All right, how are we going to do that guy? Secondary guest here. Thank you guys for being here, and thanks for being patient. All right, that's going to be...
This is so organized.
I did it. Is it? Is it really? We'll take it, but
The editor of Watermark and I do a podcast,
Oh,
and
right on.
it's chaos in that room. I mean,
Well-
you will see like the video looks like there's nothing, but there are wires everywhere, and we've got like we don't know what we're doing. So I'm
know
looking
what?
around like.
well,
let me
how
take
long
some
have you done it?
pictures.
How long have you done
For
it?
a year.
Okay, so the only difference is 20 years of not knowing what I'm doing,
Okay.
and 1 year of not knowing. That's
Same
literally
here.
the only
But see,
difference. Yeah,
you
that's
got a
what-
soundboard that looks like you know what to do with that.
This
We're
thing
like,
is
we
so
hope this
old.
sounds
Yeah,
good.
it's styrofoam.
If
That's
you
not
ever need
real,
it, hey, if
man.
you ever need anything or need any help, like get all my info, and I'll help you as much as you need.
I think I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna take a broken soundboard and put it behind
Do
me.
it.
the video
look
to make
good.
it look like
Yeah, make it look cool. Yeah, I actually have a whole room of broken soundboards.
If you want, headphones are right there.
Yeah,
you
there's
don't
some,
have to wear
there's
them.
some right there. You don't have to wear them. I'll be riding the faders for you guys. So
Okay.
if you want to, it does kind of help you, but sometimes people don't like them because they are a little loud. All right, let me.
We're on video too at the same. I don't know if I told you.
Yep, you are on video.
Glad I dressed.
And you look good.
I
Yeah,
was
you
gonna
look
go to
very
the
nice.
gym before this.
Hair looks great.
Yeah.
And the two shot over here is working better than it has, so I'll take it. No, that camera's been giving me trouble, so I'll gladly take that. All right, Mr. Van, would you like to begin?
Sure.
Here we go. In 3, 2.
Welcome back to A Corporate Time. From the Orange County Regional History Center, we've got Rick, Katie, and Scotty here
Hey!
to talk about their brand new exhibit, cover story, which is about the Watermark publication
Yeah.
that is celebrating its 30 years here in Central Florida, really globally, I think, at this point.
Can I tell you my Watermark story? Can I tell you
Yeah.
my crazy Watermark story? I'm at the Watermark Awards at Hamburger Mary's with my wife because IKEA, she's working at IKEA at the time, and they won an award for being like an ally to the publication. And she was there to get the award. And then Patty Sheehan got up there. And then Wanzi came flying out of the back of the restaurant dressed as the Pope.
Oh, really?
And then they started screaming at each other. I don't know if I'm supposed to be telling this story. And then it becomes a fight at
Well, it was in
Hamburger
public,
Mary's.
so-
When was this?
I don't
Like-
know. I don't remember.
I know exactly what you're talking
Yes!
about.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Because I've told this story. It was one of the. First of all, I used to love Hamburger Mary's. I'm the 25,000th burger sold. Yeah, I got a parade on Bear Night.
I remember that. Yeah,
I
yeah.
got
I
a
do remember
$1,000
that
tab.
story.
I literally just like I was like it was, but that was my place. I used to go there and hang out, and this is my crazy. I was at the Watermark Awards, and a fight breaks out between the Pope and Patty Sheehan.
you know, that's one of my favorite stories because when I didn't get fired,
Yeah!
I was very concerned. I was the administrative assistant for Watermark at the time, and I was in charge of throwing that event. And
It was a great event.
Miss Sammy was hosting.
Yes.
And Miss Sammy came up to me beforehand. Michael Wanzi had won a Watermark. It's called the Wave Awards. It's a Watermark Award for Variety and Excellence. And he had won for Favorite Spiritual Leader. And so Miss Sammy came to me and said, "Hey, we're just going to play this video when Wanzi gets his award." And I was like, "Okay, well, can I look at it?" And she's like, "No, it's fine." And I was like,
That's
"Okay."
how Tom and Dan do it. That's how we do it. We're like, just roll it.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
roll
yeah,
that
yeah.
beautiful bean footage.
I always tell everybody every video is fine. Like, what video is this? I'm like, it's fine. Don't you worry.
It was not.
Yeah.
It was a video about pedophilia in the Catholic Church.
Okay, all right.
And
okay.
so this
I must
is
have been
playing,
getting. I
and
must
I'm
have been
like,
getting another margarita.
and then
That'll make people uncomfortable.
so I remember Father Leo was there. He had worked at Lake Eola, and
Yes,
he was
he
there.
was there.
And so he starts yelling at Wanzi. Then everyone's yelling at each other. The founder of the company and the owner at the time of Watermark had to get in between them. And then this is my favorite part.
This is history, folks.
Can
This is
you
what we're
see-
talking about.
Right, this-
Yeah.
I'm going to say some colorful language
Sure,
here,
I
but I'm
got you.
just
Yeah.
quoting what was said by Father Leo. It's one of my favorite moments in Watermark history. Is he got mad, so he was leaving in his father garb.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the religious
I would call
thing.
it Father Jag.
I was going to say habit. That's totally
yeah.
wrong. I
The
think.
little
Yeah.
white collar thing or whatever.
So he gets to the door at Hamburger Mary's and he opens it. Then he turns back to the crowd and he goes, "Fuck you," and slams the door and walks out. I thought I am definitely getting fired.
I was in the back, so I didn't. I saw what was happening. I didn't know of anything that was happening. I just remember looking at my wife and being like, "This is the best party you've ever brought me to for IKEA." Like I used to tag along, right? I was like, "This is the most fun. I have had so much fun. This is crazy."
This is probably why Patty and Wanzi visited the exhibit at different times.
Ah, I see. I see.
Can't be in the same room
Sometimes, sometimes
yeah,
there's some friction. I have friction in this town. It happens. That's what happens.
Oh,
Yeah.
You're a very controversial.
Also,
figure.
if someone plays a video claiming that the organization that I'm involved in has a lot of pedophiles in it, I feel like getting mad about it is not the right thing to do. I think you'd be confused. You're like, what is this? Like,
Or just come get a margarita with me. I'll take care of you.
screaming
Father Leo.
F you, why are you exposing this to everybody? And then storming out is like a tell. Anyway.
So let's talk a little bit about that's just one piece of history, but let's talk about origin stories of Watermark and how it came to be and how did we get this legendary LGBTQ plus publication that is here? Like, how did we get that?
Well, that's all from the mind of Tom Dyer. He is a lawyer. He's like a probate attorney, I believe. Was doing a lot of volunteer work in the community, and this was back in the early 90s. I actually was a member of, at the time, what's called the Delta Youth Alliance, and I was 19, I think, or I joined it when I was 16, but Tom got in there somewhere around when I was 18 or 19. He was a facilitator of it, but he was also on the board of the, at the time, Metropolitan Business Association, which is now the Pride Chamber. And they had a politician that came to meet with them, and it was unheard of in 1994 for an elected official to come and speak to an LGBTQ group in public. They met in a public space. And Tom looked around the room and he said, "No one in our community will know that this ever happened, except for the few people that we tell." And he said, "We've got to fix that." And so that's where it was born, that he came up with the idea to start Watermark. He talks about having this vision of just helping create this thriving LGBTQ plus community where you walk down a street on a Sunday afternoon and you see somebody in a coffee shop reading the gay newspaper.
Yeah.
And that was his dream. And so he saw that need and he filled it.
Well, I mean, he did it, at least from my 5'2" Orlando straight perspective. I know there's a lot of people demanding that out there. I would say that you did it because you see it. Like before I even knew that Scotty and the History Center, we weren't going to talk about this. Like when I got the email, I was like, oh, I know exactly. It's so well done because I know like I'm just Joe Normal and I'm Dan. But I was like this is completely something I've known about for a very long. Not only known about it, but I participated. Right.
Yeah.
So it's a thing to me.
Yeah.
By the way, you know how mad I am that someone's celebrating a 30-year anniversary and they started in the mid-90s?
He says
Because
this
my
never-
first
it
time-
really bothers
I was
him.
like,
The minute you started going
I
down
was
the
like,
road,
when-
I'm like, oh no, he mentioned.
I was
the
like, when
90s.
did Watermark? Because I was like, oh, 30-year anniversary. Immediately, I was like, when did it start? Late 70s. That's how old I've gotten. I
We started
forget.
thinking it's like it was Harvey
It was like,
Milk.
oh
And
my
it
God.
was like the thing painted back here, the Milk District.
It's 2024.
Yeah, we're like, no, this is a
No.
90s
Yeah.
relatively new thing that happened. So how do you get that going? Do you need funding? Do you need a board of directors? How do you start a I mean, it's easy now.
Publication,
Everybody
yeah.
can start a podcast now,
Yeah.
but like, how do you start?
Literally everybody.
Yeah, like
who wants a podcast?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give them away.
Well, I'm sure Rick can tell a story, but you guys keep in mind this was started back when putting together a newspaper was like cutting and pasting. It wasn't.
Yeah.
you know,
It was literally cutting and pasting. That's
Yeah.
what they did.
Yeah, like almost more like. I mean, again, this comes up like we saw it in the figurehead exhibit. It's very punk rock.
Yeah, punk rock
Yeah,
flyers.
like I think that's one of the reasons why it felt like it worked. Like very early on, it did look like a zine. You know, like
Yeah.
you know, if you were lucky, if your school had a zine where the kids are putting it together, but it was very.
Yeah, I mean, pre-internet, you print something
yeah.
out and then distribute it.
Were there investors to make it look? Because it always looked very top tier. Like it didn't look chintzy or not good.
Well, that's nice of you to say. We interviewed somebody.
Well, I'm a man of
years
quality.
later.
I like it.
We were interviewing somebody for a graphic design position, you know, some years into the publication starting, and he was like, "Oh, I know why you're hiring somebody. I've seen your publication." So it's
We had that happen to us. That's a danger break.
yeah.
We had the exact same thing happen to us where they're like, "Oh my god, we know why you're here." Yuck, gross.
But yeah, he had some of his friends, some of his closest friends, got together and helped him sort of staff it and throw some money his way so they can get it started. It didn't take a lot of money at first.
Well, let's talk about the actual exhibit itself because it goes on from now till December, correct?
Yep, December 15th.
And so the exhibit, of course, at the Orange County Regional History Center.
Yes, sir.
thehistorycenter.org if you want to find out all information. But you guys have picked out pivotal like covers for Watermark that have been instrumental, or like, hey, how would you go about picking out like the most important covers of the magazine?
That's a Katie question right there.
All right.
So we ended up with 30 covers, and
Hold on, your microphone sounds weird. Okay, now try.
there
we go.
We ended up with 30 covers, and we didn't intend to do that. Originally, the exhibit, our original intention is we were standing in our lobby talking about doing one wall in our lobby.
Okay.
And Rick sent me over. He was like, these are the ones that we like. And I was like, we need to have literally every single one of these, plus the first one and the 30th. And so he sent me 28. And so then we were like, and we'll add number 1 and we'll add number 30. And we'll actually make a full-scale gallery out of it.
I love that.
Because as I looked at the covers that he had sent over to us, it just like struck me how it really tells the story of, it tells like pivotal moments of LGBTQ plus history and how Watermark was really telling these stories and tracing these histories throughout their 30 years. And I was like, this is more than just a lobby exhibit. This deserves more space in the museum. So it ended up as a full-scale gallery exhibit.
Nice.
For that reason.
So
It's cool that you guys take that much time to like kind of step back and go like, oh, I don't know, you know, let's see what we got here. Maybe we can make a little more out of this, or add a little too. Did you have any people from the community that like once they know, or now that they know that this is going to be a thing? I mean, you probably have more access to people that have worked over the years, and you know, I mean, I would imagine that you know it's like a thing now that people know it's happening.
yeah, I'm curious of what when you were choosing those covers, Rick, what like I'm pretty sure you had to like weed some of them out. Like, you know, you probably initially had way more, and then you're like,
Nurse Blake, a little too new, doesn't make the cut.
like how do you make those decisions? And
Yeah.
what are some of them? Like, give you some examples.
You know, it was for this project. It wasn't incredibly difficult. Watermark just finished at the beginning of this year a documentary. We worked with Adrenaline Films and finished a documentary called "Greetings from Queertown, Orlando," which is about the pioneers, like the brave people who started the LGBTQ plus community in Central Florida. And for that project, we had gone through thousands and thousands of photos and every single cover that we've ever done and sort of weeded it down. So we then had to get a little bit smaller to send to the History Center, but that it was kind of done. But what we do when we look at that is we got to look at it from different perspectives. You know, we look at it personally. Like for me, what impacted my life the most? What were the biggest stories to me? And then we looked at, as in the community as a whole, you know, what were the stories that meant the most to the community, or what were groundbreaking stories. So when you do that, they're all winners. I mean, like some of them are horrible stories, but they're incredibly important. So it doesn't. I mean, it's kind of easy to pick. I mean, I could have given 100 of them that really
Yeah,
mattered.
yeah,
But
yeah.
for me, it was like the no-brainer of it all. The most important story to me is Matthew Shepard. And he was murdered in 1996, and so that's an important one. For the country, 9/11 was a huge one, and it actually changed the landscape of Watermark because of the effects that it had on the economy. To try to make Watermark survive that was very difficult.
It's awesome because there's truly nothing more American than being able to tell your story from your perspective. Right? Like with the freedom of press and able to do that. So to be able to tell the story from a gay perspective when no one else is doing it in the town of Orlando, which I look around and sometimes I'm like, I love it here and I'm like amazed at how like we have, I think it's very weird and cool and it's like this weird mix of everybody and I love it. And I don't know. I just think this is super cool. Like this is like powerful, man.
I'm curious from a business perspective. Like I know a thing or two about like running
how hard
a
this
media
is?
company.
Yeah, it's really hard.
And like getting advertisers,
Yeah.
and really, it's the advertisers is what
are
the
we?
backbone
What
of
are we
the
at,
money.
18 years?
Then you get some donors and things like that. Those are mediums. But so and then that's like just growing a media company. I'm curious to like how big did Watermark get? Like, is it at this point a worldwide read publication? Like,
interesting.
Is there a point where it
Have
got
people
ultra
copied it?
famous?
Have people tried to copy
Did
it?
celebrities promote it at one point and then it blew up?
Well,
like
there are other like huge gay publications in other cities, like the Blade. I'm trying to think of other ones off the top of my head, but like all those questions we just asked
in
now.
the country, but locally, the Watermark has seen publications come and go. I mean, this is the 30 years is a pretty remarkable.
I was gonna say,
really.
I mean, like you can't even do that, like for
Oh yeah, we'll
hard to
never
do that.
make it that long.
I'm just sitting there thinking
That's
that. I
insane.
didn't want to say that, but that's absolutely what should have been said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's you bring up the business side of it and you think about the housing market crash and 9/11 and COVID and how we're sitting here talking about the 30-year anniversary is insane to me.
Yeah.
That we survived this, and a lot of it has to do with just the loyalty of our readers, of our community, how important it is to all of them, but 100% the advertisers. The Watermark does reach globally. One thing that's interesting, we met a group of people from Venezuela it was an LGBTQ plus group that came to do a tour and hear how we do things here in America. And they actually told me that they got their news from what happened at Pulse from watermarkonline.com. And so that was, it was really touching to hear that because you would think, people from outside the country would get that from, CNN, MSNBC, something like that. So that meant a lot that they were following us for that. But it does reach. I mean, there are people in other countries that read us. The editor and I do a podcast on queer entertainment, awesome. And that's listened to. I think the second highest the country with the second most people is like Singapore.
Oh wow!
Listen to it.
I get my gay news from Fox News.
Yeah. There's
And let me tell you,
it's been light lately, right?
Shocking.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
A couple things, just real quick from
Okay.
the chat room, because I want to hit these points. These are really cool. DJ Axis says, hello to Scotty. Met you and Brenda at the poker tournament. Dua Peep says, I always think of Billy Maines when I think of Watermark. Robert says, as a gay man, I want to thank them and salute them for all the hard work that they've done for this community. Very cool.
So
Very cool.
Was there any time that Watermark almost like closed its doors, or like was there?
We've had that.
Was there any time where there was like a question of moving forward in the history?
Well, from my experience, and I've been there, I'll be there 23 years in February.
That's awesome.
So I can say that after the housing market crash, we sort of, my job, I was the business manager, and my job was to come up with all the plans. How are we going to survive? And then, I'd go over them with Tom, and he'd pick the one that he wanted to run with. And so I don't think shutting the doors was ever on that list, but it was how bare minimum can we go? And we did lose half the staff after the housing market crash. Wow. But within a year, we had hired them all back. Now, there was a time where I was very concerned, and that was during COVID.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And I had to we went down to a bare bone staff. I called everybody on a Friday and said, basically we're keeping one person from each department. So there's going to be 4 people and the rest have to go. And then I woke up the next day and I got the email from the bank that we got the PPP loan. So I called everybody Monday morning and said, "You got your job back."
That's all.
God, why didn't we
Which
do that?
was great.
We could have taken the government for so much money.
It was for companies like Watermark.
I
that needed
know, but I'm just saying we could have taken it. I have a bunch of friends that have companies that they took it. And they didn't need it. I look at them at like family gathering. I'm like, you didn't need that. No, I don't know any of those people.
Rick,
Scotty knows that I'm stupid. In here. He knows. He knows.
But I love you.
I love you too.
Is there any particular stories that stick out in your mind as like a super important story that people still bring up? Like sometimes things stick in people's minds, like, all right, just equated to our company. Like there's things that have happened on the show that people still bring up.
The barbershop quartet.
After 10 year, a decade, or like, hey, remember when this happened? I'm sure you get that a lot. Is there anything that stick out in your head like that Watermark put out that still resonate in people's minds?
The thing that actually jumps into my mind is that probably about 10 to 12 years ago, we did a story on a gay adult film star that was murdered.
Okay.
And it shows up in our top 10 stories of online stories read every year.
Oh,
No, really?
For the last 12 years, it's been like it's been a huge story that people read every year.
Interesting.
But I think, but on a more serious note, I think that we hear most about and this is really important to say too, is that we hear more about what's not being covered.
Yeah.
And that's super important, especially for us and what we do. And I'll just say that I just think that there's no amount of coverage of the trans community that will ever be enough until people are not being murdered for being who they are.
Right.
It's just insane the levels at which especially trans women of color are murdered in this country. And it's just like, it's like school shootings. People hear about it and they go, oh, another one. That's sad. But something should definitely be done about it. We try very hard. In the process of making this documentary, I did an interview with Nicole Parker, who now works at the center, and she said something about these trans murders, and she said, if it was anyone other than trans women of color, people would be in the streets. And so that really resonated with me. And so we then decided at Watermark that we would do a series where we just told the stories of everyday trans people. So we did a series, like it was a year-long thing, and every issue we talked about, someone who was just in the community, not an activist, but just someone, who bagged your groceries or was your bank teller, who just happened to be trans, and talked about
a human
being who had a favorite food and a favorite movie and a favorite.
Because I hate it when people even do that too, when they're just talking about like just humans. You'll use the term, and we all do it. You'll be like normal. It's like no, just say human, because no one's normal. I'm not.
Yeah.
Scotty knows. He's just staring at me like this unnormal person that's screaming the whole time. But yeah, it's like that's cool.
It was one of my favorite things that we've done.
Yeah, that's really, really awesome.
And like as far as the actual covers of each Watermark, like I'm sure throughout the years, like have they all been like particular
who's the most
art?
famous?
Oh yeah. Like is there any particular cover that is the most popular, the most like iconic?
Like, to me, all I got is Playboy, and it was the Barbie twins. And I was like, ooh la la. I was like, come on, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. We had a good deal of celebrities on our cover. Some of them many, many times. I think we used to have a staff writer that loved Cyndi Lauper, and I think we got her like 5 or 6 times.
Right.
Quite a bit, yeah.
It depends on who's in the department at the time.
Yeah.
We have a relationship with a lot of other newspapers like The Blade and Philadelphia Gay News out of Philadelphia, and we're part of this National LGBTQ Media Association, and they landed an interview with Pete Buttigieg that we ended up getting to run and had on our cover, and I think that was pretty special for people.
Yeah, I'm glad you answered. I was wondering that too. If these bigger LGBTQ plus like publications, if you network, almost like traditional, media does, straight media, like Fox News does it with all their affiliates, like why couldn't you guys have your affiliates all over the world, right?
Yeah, well, we're definitely in this group, and this group is made up of 13 legacy papers around the country.
That's dope.
And I think we may be the youngest of the group at 30 years. So,
older city papers like Chicago, LA, New York, and
and like
DC.
Mark Siegel, who's the owner and publisher of the Philadelphia Gay News, he's a Stonewall original. Like he was there. He marched at Stonewall.
That's crazy.
So. Yeah, he's got a lot of great advice.
That is man. This is truly historical. Very cool.
I'm curious to what year you guys decided to go heavy into internet. Being like a starting off a paper publication, we've seen some other newspapers and paper.
Yeah, we're talking about you, Scott Maxwell.
Traditional,
you go down to that building.
and
There's
stuff.
like nothing. Everybody works from home. The building's falling down.
And some jumped to the internet early and then had tremendous success. Some were hesitant and then started too late. So what was Watermark's journey with that?
We were dragged into into progress. I think it was 2005 when we hired our first online editor, and she was the only person with that title that we ever had. And she's not with us anymore, and that position doesn't exist. But she did help get us set up. I mean, when I first started as the administrative assistant in 2002, I was copy and pasting code without any understanding whatsoever.
I love that. I love that.
From a Word document to some place somebody told me to, and then boom, it would all show up. And you miss one character and the whole website's
And you
gone.
break it. Yeah,
And you got to go back and do it. So
God.
that was 2002 to 2005 or 6. We hired Jamie, and then and then it's sort of been technology has been tough for us to stay up with it. I mean, it's not cheap.
It's expensive.
Yeah, it's real expensive.
I mean, we have to do it here, and it's like you'll buy something, and like 3 years later, it's like it's obsolete.
Right.
Yeah.
But
100%. Or
these
finally,
cameras are so old. You have the only good camera we own, and we can't afford the other ones. They're too expensive.
What the heck?
we finally get
Sorry, Scotty.
we finally got a TikTok account, and now people are telling me that that's going to go away, and I'm like, no, we just got it.
You'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Yeah. But I gotta imagine that your readers and your audience is so engaged that it's super powerful. As a media company, that's what you want is an engaged audience, engaged readers, and you guys have it, and that's probably what that why Watermark will be. I mean, in the history, I can never see it going away, right?
Yeah,
because there's such an engagement, and there's so many people that it meant so much to that, it could another 100 years, right?
Let me ask you a serious, because this is like the end of we get to the end, and I start thinking of my super get 'em questions, like gorilla.
Uh-oh.
That's when I get crazy. I started thinking about this. What do you guys think about? Do you already do a Watermark Awards, right? But where you give sort of fake awards to all radio stations, podcasts, and newscasters,
and then you call them and get them to advertise.
Radio fatzos, and all you give all the people,
hundreds of
and influencers and video, but you just give all and you just give, and then they'll start talking about you. And all you have to do is give them some stupid plaque, and they'll love you.
And you call them and hassle them. You're like, you want to advertise it?
Yeah, and then they'll make you buy an ad to thank all your listeners for voting.
I feel like you guys are just asking for an award right now.
No. I think
no. It's a business model,
this
Scotty.
is a business model because you guys can get rich doing this.
We're just making fun of it.
I thought we just invented the Watermark Media Award.
You should see it's lucrative.
Yeah, it is very lucrative. Then you have a party at Will's. He's not happy about it because he's giving away all the booze.
I'm already thinking about what I can wear. This is great.
Well, again, Scotty, tell us about how people can see the exhibit. Again, how long it's lasting and everything else.
Sure. And Katie, if you want to jump in here, the Watermark cover story celebrating Watermark's 30th year. Is that right?
Cover story celebrating
Watermark's
30
years.
What is it?
Now, hold on. I'm going to zoom out.
Right here. Hold on.
Hold on. I'm zooming out, and we're going to do a take 2. Here we go. In 3, 2, 1. Okay, we're going to do it again. I need you to focus, Scotty. Okay, and here we go. In 3, 2, 1.
No,
It's cover story celebrating 30 years of Watermark.
There.
There you go. And that it's up till December 15th. A couple of other exhibit things to know is that Figurehead,
Love it.
about the music scene, is going away on February 2nd, and we're doing
Bye.
this awesome. Katie is working hard with her team on this exhibit called Orlando Collected, which is going to open April 12th, telling the story of Orlando and 150 objects that are largely curated by people from the community.
Awesome.
I love that.
So lots going on.
Yeah, that's cool.
And we'll remember the titles next time.
Yeah, no,
You're fine.
where's the show? No,
Now, wait till
everybody
you go back
knows
and you're
what it is.
watching it in post, and then it has like a robot voice come in and say it correctly for you, and then you are a robot.
Rick, Katie, Scotty, thanks
Yeah,
very much
thank
for
you
coming
guys.
by.
That was
We
super
appreciate
cool.
it.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
And again, thehistorycenter.org for
Go
all
there.
information.
Yeah,
Just
it's a
become
nice
a member.
place to go, like with your significant other. Just if you
Yeah,
want to not do something that's not dumb.
Yeah,
Go and learn.
and
Go-
educate yourself.
Yeah,
and,
go and learn.
I'm going to steal that.
Well, you can learn something, right? Like we all go, oh, what do you want to do? So, oh, let's go to Gators. It'll get diarrhea again. You know, like, yeah, come on, you can go learn something for once in your life.
All right, we will be right back.
So is that it for?
Yep.
Okay.